I have to give some major props and credit to Uncle Silk, who is a follower of mine on Twitter.
Silk the Shaka.
Uncle Silk. His name is Carl Lampkin. He does. He's like a DJ. He said, "You know what? By the way, welcome to the latest episode of Keepin Orange and Blue. I'm Ryan Evan. It's Kevin Ducey. So thanks again for joining us on this lovely Wednesday evening. But I have to give credit for this music to a follower of mine who said, the music you have, it's decent. But he's like, man, I mix it up. He's like, I'm about to hit you up with some good stuff. He sent me 3 nice edits he did. That's one mix, and I like it a lot. I'm digging it. So we're gonna use that. That's gonna stay on the repertoire. Our back and forth. We'll go back and forth. So anyway, thanks, Uncle Silk.
We got a podcast hosted by a white dude from Decatur and a white dude from Urbana, but like every white dude from Decatur and white dude from Urbana's got a little hood, and we need a good beat. Like, come on, let's be real. True.
I gotta be honest though. I keep a lot of that. You can't really tell that from hearing me and talking to me, but it is what it is. So it's all love. So anywho, not tons really going on right now.
When you say anywho, you blow it right out of the window.
Yeah.
Anywho.
That's my transition. Anywho.
It's the whitest shit you've ever said in your life.
Anyways. Not a lot going on in Illini land per se. So, but there are a couple big things, especially one big thing that everybody's talking about. And, I figure why not get on here and just get our weekly update in for folks. And because I don't really like to go 7 to 10 days, or 7's fine, but I don't like to go more than that without checking back in with people, because I know what, Kev, there are hundreds of people who actually this is where they get their quality info from, because they don't want to be on message boards. They don't want to pay for info. They either don't know how to create usernames and all that, and they're older, and that's fine. And this is the easiest way, is for them to sit and just watch and get their info.
I call it friends of the program, right? It's one of those things like that's just, they know where to get their news from. They know where to get their info from, and that's where they reach out, and that's cool. And I'm glad to give it to them. I mean, we could, we started talking off about Urbana, Decatur white dudes. We could talk about, the beef between MGK and Jack Harlow, or we can talk about Ray J. Dennis possibly coming to visit. So I think we do the latter, because I think that's what people want.
Yeah, we definitely give people. And I want to say this: so everybody who is watching either on Twitter and YouTube, or people who listen, Apple Podcasts and all that stuff. So as of now, it sounds like some cool things with Twitter, since Elon Musk has taken over, is coming back. So Periscope used to be a big thing on Twitter. And that's where I used to do my Sunday Periscopes, Kevin. You probably used to watch me sometimes in my living room, just on the couch. And I would hold the phone, up to my face, and that's how I would live stream it. That's where I think I got my niche, and everybody started to be like, who is this guy who just rambles and holds his phone up and just talks to people for an hour? Like, who does that? Like me, I do that. So now it's transitioned into this, but for those people, the Periscope was a big deal. The Sunday night Periscope. The Periscope seems to be coming back to Twitter.
Okay.
And which means you people will be able to then comment from Twitter, and we'll see it in our chat log. So as of right now, if you guys have any questions or anything, you have to either comment them before the show on the things I tweet, or on YouTube, you can get on the chat and ask questions, and that's how we can answer if you guys have anything. So if you haven't subscribed as of now on YouTube, and that's something you like to do, that's the best way you guys could ask a question if you're wanting to jump in, and we can go over it. So tonight would probably be a cool night to do that a little bit.
Yeah, we could do and we could do a Twitter space one of these days too. I think would be a fair.
Yeah, because Spaces too is going to be a gigantic thing. So the Periscope coming back, which is great. So this is going to stay on Twitter. I'm gonna be honest. As long as there's Twitter, I will be on Twitter because Twitter's my thing. So, and I've just found out I can stream this onto Instagram. I'm still behind on Instagram, and I do have one, and I will get into it more, knowing that this can be streamed on that platform as well. And TikTok now too. I've used TikTok more of just like a fun family thing with my kids. We make silly TikToks, but I've never used TikTok to talk about Illinois. So
right.
Don't know if I'll be doing that. But anyway, so that's what's up with that. So follow us on all those other platforms as you see, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and please subscribe on YouTube. I think tonight would be a great night to do that. It's 200 columns and then keep it in orange and blue.
And then while you're making a public service announcement, be sure to know that this Sunday is Mother's Day. So if you haven't got mom something, get out and get her something. Maybe sign her up and subscribe her to our podcast. That'd make her day.
You know what? There are tons of Illini fan mothers out there. And, I've gotten to know several, like just friendly over Twitter who followed me. One sweet woman. Rest in peace. She was a sweet lady, Susan Hart. She passed away last year from cancer. But Kevin, she used to watch my Periscopes so much every week, and she got her info from me, and she told me after like 2 years of doing it, she just messaged me one time and was like, I just really appreciate you doing this for people, and we really enjoy just listening and hearing what goes on, even some behind the scenes, and just having somebody explain stuff to us that maybe I wasn't sure about. So I got to be honest, it's been so fun to do these things because you get to meet and so many cool, neat people. And Susan Hart was someone who I actually tweeted about. And after she passed away, her daughter told me she passed away. And when she told me how much her mom really appreciated me and how much I meant to her, that just, doing something like this, dude, it was just cool to hear that. So,
yeah, I mean, you talk about that. I mean, the reason I'm an Illinois sports fan is because of my mom. My mom took me to the games. My mom made sure I had season tickets. My mom was my mom. Like it wasn't my dad. So yeah, I feel you on that one. So absolutely. But it was a slight joke about telling him to get him a subscription. Do something more for your mom than that. Get her some flowers. Make sure you get her a car. But Mother's Day this weekend.
100%. Yeah, 100%, Kevin. And I got to be honest too. I'm sure there'll be one or two people who watch this who go, "Darn it, you're right." Was Susan Hart AJ Hart's mom? I don't believe so, Sean. No. She has daughters, I believe. So, but again, Sean, thanks for the YouTube question. But anywho, let's get to it. So Ray J. Dennis, from what it sounds like, Kevin, taken at least 2 visits, possibly a third. And if one of them 100% is going to be Illinois. So sounds like Baylor is going to get one, which that's the team that people are worried about. And I have told you this, Adrian Brown, great job as always, Ryan and Deuce. Hey, we appreciate you, Adrian.
Thanks, AB.
Baylor, Kansas State. So it sounds like 2 Big 12 teams and then Illinois. And Illinois is going to get the last visit. So and we're going to dive into like, should anybody be worried about it? Likelihood he could go somewhere else, even though we feel pretty good about it. And while I'll explain why I'm really not that worried about it. But Kev, him taking visits to Kansas State and Baylor, if one of them were to worry you some, he wants to be point guard, right? And he knows he's going to be a point guard in the NBA. He's going to want to go a place where he can shine as the point guard, right?
Yeah. It's
Illinois. Yeah.
It's Illinois. I mean, LJ Cryer just left for a reason, right? And didn't LJ Cryer go to Kansas? Where did he end up going? Like, Kansas State.
He went to a big school, but he left there because he wanted to go be a point guard. Imagine that.
And Kansas State landed Tyler Perry already.
Yep, he'll be sharing time with someone anywhere else he goes other than Illinois.
Yeah, I mean, Kansas State really doesn't make any sense there at all. So it's a Baylor thing. Oh, LJ Cryer went to Houston. My apologies. But Tyler Perry already went and this is the North Texas kid, like the MVP of the NIT kind of kid.
And and let's be honest, that kid's going to be the man there. He's going to start.
Oh, 100%, 100%. I think he's probably. I mean, I think Ray J's as good, if not better, than that kid. But it's already there. It's like, I mean, it is just Tang would have a tough sell there, in my opinion, to say, hey, yeah, we're going to bring in Ray J after we already got Tyler transferred over. But I mean, Baylor is a little bit of an issue. However, you look at Ray J's an Illinois kid, relationship with Tim Anderson. I am of the belief that Terrence Shannon's coming back. I think Illinois is in a lot better space than Baylor is. The Big Ten is a much better conference to be on TV in. And the Big Ten is getting better network deals. It's just a lot of things that would be much more beneficial to Ray J to come to Illinois than either one of those schools.
And what, on top of all that, it's not just all those awesome, great points. I think the NIL, Illinois is going to be able to match Baylor or Kansas State no matter what.
Yeah. So
because they didn't get a big fish like Hunter Dickinson or whatever. So there's more money to spend. And it sounds like Coleman's going to be – they've told Coleman what you're going to get if you come back, maybe a little more, but it's not some gargantuan number. And I think there's a reason for that, because if they gave him some gargantuan, there probably wouldn't be anything for Ray J. So Terrence Shannon's going to get a big chunk of it, and that's why he's more likely. And I know we've said it before, but sometimes people are thinking, oh, this can't just be money and business related. To be honest with you, it is really that.
It 100% is. I mean,
look at Hunter Dickinson left Michigan, Kevin.
Yeah. And you talked about money. I mean, these guys. It's so different now in the NIL world than what it used to be. Is that, you look at a guy like Trent Frazier. Let's use Trent. Let's use Alfonso Plummer. We can use some of those guys. Is that their last year at Illinois was the last chance for those guys, the way it's looking now, for those guys to get paid to play basketball and live in the United States. And right now, that is what Ray J. Dennis is looking at. That's what Kofi should have looked at. And I am not throwing shade at Ray J. Dennis and telling him that he can't make an NBA roster, but he didn't get invited to the combine. That's what Terrence Shannon and Coleman Hawkins are having to weigh right now. And the fact is that Illinois has most likely a bigger bag for Ray J. than I believe that Kansas State or Baylor would. Yes. And I also believe there's a better chance for him to win, especially if Terrence comes back. And my understanding is Illinois is working some bigs in the portal still in case Coleman doesn't come back. If Ray J comes back and Coleman and TJ come back, that's the roster. If not, if it's Ray J and Terrence, which is kind of rumored a little bit more that's more likely than Coleman comes back, then I think Illinois will try to go find a big possibly in the portal. If it's just Ray J, I do think that Illinois will find another guard and a big in the portal. I do think that the staff is being proactive about who they're looking at to have contingency plans, and that's obviously not ideal. Ideal is Terrence Shannon to come back, and preferably Coleman. Rumors circulating that if Coleman does not stay in the draft, that he would potentially look to the portal. I don't know what that.
And he would have to enter the portal by tomorrow night. So,
and
May 11th. Yep. So if
my question is, can you do that? Can you do that without being real public about it? I mean, have guys entered the portal and nobody knew about it? I don't know.
I mean, you would think that secretly you could have, but I think maybe the portal just announces it. I think they do it. It's like, it's like when you go someplace and you don't want that bell to ring. You know what I mean? It's like you open the door to a hotel or a restaurant and it's like, ding. I think that's basically when you hit the portal. They're like, Coleman Hawkins entered the portal. And it's like, you don't really have to do that. But so to piggyback what you just said, it sounds too like if Shannon, even though I feel pretty good about Shannon coming back. And I have always said that. And you guys, you go back to look at an episode in April.
Yeah.
Early April, where I said I will quit calling myself a Illini Swami if both of those guys leave, because I was that sure about it. One of them's coming back. So it looks like Shannon. And why? Mainly because here's why. I'm going to be blunt. He's going to make more at Illinois than I'd say like 90% than he would making a two-way roster, because
right,
$500,000 tops, okay, for two-way contract, $500,000. He's going to be making at least $800,000 to $1 million, $800,000 to $1 million at Illinois.
Yep.
And that's not me just making up something like, oh, that's a lot of money, I'm just going to throw random numbers out. No, it's pretty close to $1 million, which means it's about $300,000 to $400,000 more than he'll make it with his NBA two-way contract. And why would he take that? Oh, he could still be in the NBA because of this. He can double his money, play college ball, finish whatever degree he wants at Illinois, and guess what? He's going to be in the same situation, if not better, next year, Kevin.
Yeah.
And guess what he'll have? That two-way contract for $500,000 there again. So why not double your money?
And we talked about this already, in a weaker draft.
Yeah, a weaker draft, double your money. And let's be honest, if he's getting really good advice, which I think he probably is, that's the smart thing to do. Like, double your money. And guess what? And 1 year from now, here you are. You'll be back in your same spot, and you'll probably be an early to mid-second round pick again.
And one thing I want the fans to really understand and think about is, and I don't know if I shared this on the last show, and if I did, forgive me, please, everybody. But in the 2022 draft, there were 9 foreign players taken in the second round. The most I've found projected in the second round are 2, right? Everybody knows about Webben Maya or whatever, like the French kid, right? Everybody knew about Josh Giddey a couple years ago, right? Those guys were there. People are very aware of those guys. People are very aware of Scoot Henderson, and I'm not saying he's a foreign kid, but he's in the G League Ignite, right? But what they're not aware of is guys like Santi Aldama, who was taken in the last pick of the first round in 2021. And then I'm looking at 2021. Rokas Jokibuatitis was the 34th pick. Do you think he was on anybody's mock drafts? Anybody ever heard of the dude since? He went ahead of Io, right? That's the reason why Io slipped to 38, because of guys like that. Juhan Begarin from France went to the Celtics. Anybody ever heard of him? He went ahead of
who? Yeah,
he went ahead of guys like Sharif Cooper. Then there was a Delano Banton went to the Timber. Like, there's all, go look at these. Philip Petrusev. I know who he is. There's all these guys. Charles Bassey from Nigeria. Sandro Mamadala from Nashki. He was a Seton Hall kid. Sorry, but there's all these guys you never even heard of that were foreign guys that end up getting picked in the second round, and they're not on anybody's mocks. They're on nobody's mocks, because these guys in the mocks don't even know who these dudes are. So when you're saying, oh, well, Coleman's being mocked at 43, well, I'm like, dude, I was mocked at 25 and went 38. If Coleman and Terrence are getting the proper information here, you've got to factor in 5 to 7 spots, at least for foreign national dudes coming in, that are going to affect your draft stock. And like I said, there were 9 in the second round taken last year. There's only 2 projected in the mocks that I'm looking at, because we just don't know who those dudes are. So I think it would be beneficial to both guys. And obviously I'm biased and I want them to come back. I want both of them to come back. I love that Coleman can be a Swiss Army knife for the team. And I love Terrence Shannon. I love Terrence Shannon since he was in high school. So, like,
I got to be honest, though, Kevin, too. I think Illinois has a higher ceiling if both come back next year. So,
100%. I think it's a top 10 team if they come back. I know I'm bullish on that. I know the people think I'm that guy on this team. I'm bullish, but I do think there's something to be said that it would be extremely, extremely old basketball team. I mean,
yes.
if you were to look at if they both come back, your starting lineup is most likely Ray J. Dennis, and we get Ray J. Dennis. Let's assume that would be a 5th-year senior point guard. We would have Terrence Shannon Jr. That's a 5th-year senior shooting guard. Let's say Damask starts at the 3. That's a 5th-year small forward. By the way, all three of those guys, lots of starts. Lots of starts. Let's just say this Quincy Greer starts at the 4. That's a fifth-year senior guy with lots of starts. And Coleman Hawkins is your youngest player, a fourth-year senior at center in the starting lineup. And then you back it up with Dane Danger, who's like 22 years old. Luke Goody is a junior. Justin Harmon is a fifth-year senior.
Yep.
You know, like there's just a ton of experience there and like grown-ass men that you're going to have to go bang with every day in practice.
And you'll have Ty Rogers and Sincere Harris, a year older, who are just nasty, tough dudes who are going to give you 110% every game. And then
nobody's being left out of that lineup. Somebody, a good player is going to be like, man.
And then Draven Gibbs, Lawhorn, and Amani Hansberry will be on the team as well. So, yeah, it's going to be fun, man. But, somebody – and at the end of next year, I don't know if some of those – here's the thing. I don't know, though, at the end of next year that some of those guys will leave because so many of them will be gone. You know, most of that team will be gone next year, which is going to be interesting for the 2024 class because right now it's just Merez Johnson. So, I'm expecting 3 more guys at least.
Yeah, and I from what I've heard, from what I've listened to, is that Illinois is much more involved in the 24 class because they're going to have to be, but they're also going to have something to sell. I mean, I think high school recruiting is going to change pretty drastically with the transfer portal. As I think you're going to start seeing top 40 kids. Maybe not top 15, maybe not McDonald's All-Americans, but guys who are on that fringe list be more open to the opportunity of coming to a place like Illinois to sell some playing time because all these schools, just like Illinois, are filling playing time with transfer
portals, yeah.
And I think really what Underwood's looking at is like Underwood needs a Sweet 16.
Yep,
he needs one. I'm in that camp. I'm not just the pure Brad Underwood ass kisser like we finished the show with last week. He needs one. And I think Brad Underwood feels that pressure. And I think Josh Whitman feels that pressure. And I think that they believe the way to do that next year is to do it with a very old team. And I think if they let's say they didn't make a Sweet 16. Let's say they made an Elite 8. That'd be great. Who knows what can happen from there? All you got to do is get to the second weekend and you don't know what's going to happen. Not many people had Miami in the Final Four or San Diego State, right?
And sometimes, I get to it. Sometimes it's matchups. And Illinois' matchups have always just been quirky, odd, weird. It's like I knew they were going to draw like an Arkansas crazy athletic team. And I'm just like, ugh, like there was no way, like, even though I was funny, I said I want a Florida Atlantic, That's what I –
Go to the 2 previous tournaments. There's not a single 5 seed that would have scared Illinois as the 4 seed 2 years ago.
That's Houston, yeah.
2 years ago, there's not a single 8-9 team that does anything to give Illinois worries other than the number 10 Ken Pom team, who happen to be a 9 seed or whatever. So like, there's things. Yeah, we haven't caught the best breaks, but it doesn't matter. You got to go out and win those games.
Yep. But what I'm saying is there's no way in me and your lifetime is Brad Underwood coached every year they're just going to have a shitty matchup. Pardon my French. It's coming.
Illinois doesn't have a run in my life. I'm 44 years old. Illinois does not have a surprise run in my lifetime in the tournament. Not one time. I mean, the closest we can get is 2004. We made a Sweet 16 as a 5 seed, and we blitzed Cincinnati in the second round.
Yeah.
But I'm like, we don't have one, 6 seed Sweet 16 that I know of. Nope. We don't have one, 4 seed Elite 8. Like, why?
Do you remember this year? I think you would probably remember. I think you might have been a senior in high school. The year they played Chattanooga.
Oh, God.
And, that was your double-digit seed ready to just take them and they folded. I remember watching that. I was 9. Yeah. And I was like, oh, Chattanooga, I've never even heard of them. They're going to run through them.
We had the game 1, and then we melted in the second half.
Yeah. So that would have been one in my head that I'm thinking they had a double-digit seed. They could have, finished them off.
And would have had a double-digit seed in the next round.
Yeah, they had an Elite 8 waiting on them. Yeah. So, anywho.
I'm gonna give you the heebie-jeebies over saying that.
That's all good. You can give me the.
Illinois was a 6 seed, and they played 11. The 11.
That was, I think, that was Jerry G, Jerry Hester, Chris Gandy. And come on now, this is just off the brain.
Matt Heldman.
Matto. I know Brian Johnson was a sophomore that year.
Was Richard Keene on that team?
I think Keene may have been. I think that was definitely Kewan Garris's. That may have been one of Kewan Garris's last games. I think that was his junior year though.
So Illinois beats Southern Cal. Illinois
USC. Yep.
Beats USC by 13, and then gets Chattanooga, a 14 seed, who beat Georgia, the 3 seed in the second round, and we blow it. And Chattanooga then faced the 10 seed Providence. Now, Providence might have given us some problems.
Did Providence go to the Final Four that year?
Oh, they got beat by 4 seed Arizona, who went to the Final Four.
Yeah, they lost in the late. Okay, they had Austin Crozier. I remember that.
Yeah, Austin Crozier. And that was the Arizona team that beat 3 number 1 seeds on the way to a national championship.
Yeah. That would have been tough. They probably would have lost to Providence.
No, I don't think that's accurate. 97. Yeah, that is right. Yeah, 97. Because Kentucky won in 96 and 98. Kentucky beat Syracuse.
That was right. That was 1997. Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
That was the year before they won the Big Ten championship in 98. So that was Matt Heldman and Brian Johnson's junior year. And then the very next year they won the Big Ten. And let's talk about that year real quick. Remember they played Maryland in the second round in Sacramento.
Yep.
And they beat up South Alabama, I think, in the first round. And then they played a game against Maryland that I thought they were going to have the advantage and win that year, but they didn't. So that's really kind of been our story, how about one more before we, because now we're getting off topic, but it's a line I related, so whatever. How about the
2000?
Not just 2000. No, the Florida Gator where they blew Illinois out.
Yeah,
they barely got by
Mike Miller hits the miracle shot to beat Butler, or else we're getting Butler in the second round. Instead we get Maryland. Instead we get Florida, who ends up going in the national championship game and losing to Michigan State. And I had tickets to the East Regional Final in Syracuse. I was about to see my boys. Instead, I got Florida Duke.
So that Illinois Pennsylvania game from the first round that year, they had a guy named Michael Jordan on that team.
Yeah.
And I remember listening to Jim Nantz and Billy Packer talking about Michael Jordan. And I'm like, I was 12. I was like, there's 2 Michael Jordans? I was like, oh, wait. That kid was good, but still.
He was Nate Mass, though.
Yeah, Cleotis Brown went off that game.
Wrong way, Cleotis.
Cleotis Brown went off that game. He had a big alley-oop dunk. I've got it on VHS if you can't tell. I've watched it a few times. That second round game was so ugly though. Ugh, they got beat by 16. It wasn't even that close.
Andrew DeClerc. Was the name?
Teddy Dupay from Florida.
Udonis Haslem, I think was.
Udonis Haslem was on that team. They were loaded. They had Haslem, Miller.
He's still in the NBA.
Yeah, I think they had one more NBA guy on that team who was there for a little bit.
Donnell Harvey.
Yep, Donnell Harvey played in the pros.
Yeah.
But anywho,
Matt Bonner.
Who?
Matt Bonner.
There we go. He played 12 years in the NBA?
Something like that. Ended up being like just a 3.
He was that big redhead who'd hit the 3 for the Spurs, the top of the key.
Yep.
And then, but it was 06. D and James Augustine's last game against Washington.
I just got a foul called on me from that game.
That was he had a short NBA career.
Brandon
Roy. Yeah, he was great. But those foul calls, it was just like, to me, it was so tough to deal with because of how you got shafted in the championship game the year before. And then the very next year, the game against Washington, it was like the foul situations. It was just a joke. And when you're already playing a team like that, who I don't believe Isaiah was on that team.
Oh, no, Isaiah Thomas, no.
Yeah, Isaiah Thomas. It was just
they had another guy that was really pretty good.
But, yeah, that game really rubbed me the wrong way for sure. So I know that was a game I thought Illinois would win. They get to another Sweet 16. But, that loss right there really kind of started the descent of the Bruce Weber era because Then they were losing in the first round multiple times, and then that not making the tournament.
Well, yeah, I mean, we go from 06 where we were 5 or 4 seed when we lost to Washington to the next thing you know we're 12 seed playing.
And they blew that Virginia Tech game, which irritates the crap out of me.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I mean, what was that? Warren Carter. Yeah, he dribbled the ball off his foot a couple times.
I just remember Brian Randall dunking and flexing, and then they came back on us.
Yeah, and then of course the lovely 5-12 loss to Western Kentucky with
Chester with a broken hand couldn't play.
Yep, Trent Meacham was on that team.
Yeah,
I think that may have been his last game. And then I think there was a year without a tournament, and then they had a year where Dimitri McCamey. Yeah, it was Dimitri McCamey's freshman year. He showed out, man. He had some 30-point games. And then the next year, they weren't very good that first year. Then the next year, they went and played Kansas in the second round. They beat UNLV in the eighth.
I was there for that.
The 8-9 game.
For that, yeah.
And Illinois actually had played Kansas pretty well,
Yeah, until the end, the Morris twins kind of took over that game. That was that.
Yep. And then that next year after that, Bruce Weber couldn't get him to the tournament again, and he was done. So, and then we know the Gross era, and here we are back talking about this. So we just wanted to run down memory lane with you guys and all those years of nothing and awful exits. And so Brad just needs to get to a Sweet 16. Let's just put it there. We know. And I could tell, Kevin, it seems like, did it bother you a little bit that I told you people think you're a homer?
No, I don't. I mean, no, it's fine. I mean, I am a homer. I wear this is the first show I've ever done where I'm not wearing an Illinois shirt or a hat. I'm like, what do you expect?
I mean, and look at his wall, you guys. He's got an Illinois block eye behind him. That's his actual room.
I had orange walls and blue carpet as a kid. Like, I mean,
you can still be a homer, Kevin, though, and see through reality, though. You know,
yeah. Like and that's just the whole thing that we just talked about. We went through an era of a better part of a decade where we were a completely irrelevant basketball squad. We're completely relevant now. We fight to get two of the top transfer portal guys in the country came here. We got a 7-foot kid from New York City that committed to Illinois. Like, we got a kid from Indiana to commit to Illinois. We got a kid from Wisconsin. Like, we never did that in the past. It's just ridiculous that, people are looking at what Underwood has done and is, go look at.
Heck yeah, we can keep going, Kev. Aiden, we appreciate you watching with your dad, Adrian. That's cool, man. I got to be honest. I appreciate you guys watching, and any young man that wants to watch and listen, I can tell you what, Aiden, I would be doing what you were doing right now if I was 12, 13, 14,
absolutely.
Whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have too. I craved for the information, man. I used to listen to WDWS Sportsline whenever I could as a kid. But I think that's the thing we got to understand is that we're a relevant basketball squad now, and Brad Underwood has done that, and he did it pretty quickly. He had 2 years where he fixed the problem, and then, he landed some guys, and that's where we're at. We're relevant. Like, we're for the past 4 years, we're the winningest team in the conference. We are in it to get some top-level transfers. Yeah, we haven't had the tournament success that we thought. I really think the team that was best built for the tourney, I do think it was the 1-seed team that lost to Loyola. But I think the year before that, I think the Andres Feliz level, I think Andres Feliz would have been huge. Kofi's freshman year, I was a sophomore. Andres Feliz, Alan Griffin.
Illinois was probably going to be a 7-seed that year, but I think they could have seen
6 maybe, but yeah, somewhere in there.
That would have been a tough 3-6 or 7-2 matchup for anybody. So
you would not have wanted that smoke. That team was tough. That team was coming on strong. They were finding themselves. They found ways to win ball games, and so I just think when you look at this, you have to look. You can't look at Brad Underwood's lost one tournament game he should have won. We were underdogs in the other ones that we've lost. It's okay. You need to pull up an upset or two. He's done that in the past in the tournament. He's got to win in the tournament. I agree with that, but I'm also not sitting here thinking I'm not going to call him Blunderwood. I think it's stupid. I'm not going to call for his head. Oh, and by the way, these 5th-year senior guys that are coming here aren't going to have a problem with him yelling. That's a kid game. That's freshman bullshit. Sorry, Aiden.
What's funny is, we actually talked to Marcus DeMosk about it, and he kind of chuckled and was like, "No," he's like, "It's called accountability." Hello,
Right.
it's
and I'm sorry. Anybody ever been in a basketball arena? You can't really just talk to guys; they don't hear you. Like it's got to be loud, so you raise your voice there. So
the only one that I think he was really, really, really hard on, and I don't know how well he handled it. And I think Brad would do a little bit different was Kipper Nichols. I think when you call a kid a pussy, all the damn time, on live TV, to me, didn't faze me. I chuckled, but it was like, I don't really think that ever helped Kipper, like Kipper would say publicly that he didn't mind it. But I know better because I know enough people who've been in the program. He hated it. And it did not help bring him up, but that's okay. Kipper did stick it out though, because he knew Brad was a good coach. He knew his track record, but he didn't enjoy that. So, but I think most of the guys that come here, and 99% of them know what they're getting into. I think Kipper was a gross guy, and he just stayed because he's like, well, Brad's a winner, so let's just see how it goes. But other than that, it's just Kipper. And some of it was funny too. I remember that one at Michigan State where he threw like a lob and he's like, he can't jump. Like, what did he say? He's like,
oh, yeah. Why are you throwing him a lob? He can't jump.
He's like, why are you throwing him a lob? He can't jump over a phone book or something like that. Yeah. But
the same guy that compared it to Jimmy Butler when he first got here.
Yeah, Jimmy Buckets. Yeah. He had one really big game against Michigan State. I think he went for 20.
Iowa scored 30.
He had 29 against Michigan State, too, in a different year, I think.
Yeah, it's weird is that at one point in time, Kipper was the last Illinois player to score 30 in a single game. It was like, you'd have won some trivia.
Yeah, I think Kipper's one of those players. Because this is one of the episodes, it's okay to wander for a few. We're going to be on here for probably 5 more minutes, but Kipper Nichols is one of those guys is like a what if, what if that switch had just stayed on more often? Because you could tell there was so much there talent-wise. It's just for some reason, man, he just couldn't get it together. Just couldn't put it together.
Yeah, it was weird. I always liked him. He seemed like he was a good kid.
What about Alex Legion, Kevin?
Don't get me started on that one.
I mean, the dude went from Kentucky. He had that really big. He had like a nice game against Michigan State where you saw I think he hit
game against Purdue.
Purdue. 4 or 5 threes, and you're like, what could be right? How about this? How about Aaron Cosby?
Oh, jeez. Got like 50% at Seton Hall from 3 before coming over, and I don't know. Yeah, I mean, Kipper Nichols' sophomore season at Illinois. He had 31 against Iowa in the Big Ten tournament game. He had 27 in the game against Michigan State. He had 19 against Rutgers. He had 16 against Indiana or something. He had multiple games where you're like, oh, is this who this guy is? And it's like, no, that's not.
I'm going to give you 2 names, and this is kind of fun. I'll give you 2 names, and then you tell me maybe what ifs and where it could have been, and do you think things would have been different? I'll start with Jamar Smith.
Oh, goodness. Ugh, why are you doing that to me, man?
I'm just saying, what could have been, right?
Yeah.
The microwave.
Yeah.
Brian Carwell. And I'm glad everything worked out for him, and he went to San Diego State.
In 19 minutes per game as a sophomore, Kipper Nichols averaged 10 points per game, 4.2 rebounds, shot 86% from the free throw line, and 38% from 3 in 19 minutes per game. He was on his way to being a 15-7 guy.
And I know for some reason I just brought him up, which is why I mentioned he was one of those guys that I'm always going to scratch my head about. Because
it doesn't make any sense.
It just, when you watch it and you're like, oh, it's a star, dude. A star's coming. Yeah, he never came.
His per 40-minute metrics that year would have been 21 points and 8.7 rebounds. That's nuts.
And to me, I think maybe Weber's
he had a 118 offensive rating. That's
I think Weber's era would have been different had Jamar Smith stayed around,
Yeah, had things just gone a little bit differently. You know, I mean, just the guys catch a break. I mean, like I'm not making excuses for what they're doing, but like, dude, it happens everywhere, and people catch breaks. We didn't catch breaks, man. So
I mean, you got to think about too. It's there was turmoil with Luther and Rich McBride and all of them. You know, they got in trouble, man. You know, and they stuck around and got it turned around. I'll give you one more name, and I will admit this is for the Gross era. We never got to see. This is a guy I'm going to give you a name that I was so stoked for and excited, and I thought this guy was going to help Darius Warren.
I don't even remember. Oh, Darius Paul.
Yeah, sorry, Darius Paul, Brandon's brother.
Yeah.
Remember, like he was a stud, you know. We're like,
oh yeah, Western Michigan, and then he started like busting up cars in Paris.
Yeah, he couldn't. We never got to see him play because he couldn't behave himself.
Does that make any sense either? Like Brandon Paul's like the most stand-up dude in the face of the earth. Like Brandon Paul is such a good dude, and his brother's just a little mischief, man. Like whatever.
And his dad's like a police chief in Gurney, you know. So it's like, geez, you know, that was a kind of a nut punch, right?
Well, we don't even need to talk about Jeremy Richmond then, if we're going to say.
I mean, we could talk about Jeremy, but he did play at Illinois, and wasn't he on that team that played against Kansas? They made the tournament.
No, I don't think so.
They didn't make the tournament his freshman year.
I could be wrong. They probably
did. They did. They did. We all were like, oh, he's going to come back, and he's got great fundamentals and post moves, and then he got in trouble. But yeah, those are some names of memory lane, you guys. I'm sure some people watching probably hadn't even thought about some of that. But to me, I brought those names up because those ones in particular, I think could have changed trajectories of those previous coaches.
Well, hey, the fact of the matter is we're due for some good luck. All that stuff we just talked about, we're due for some good luck.
Yeah, we are due. And Rach, so by the next time, you guys, I usually like to do this, so we'll do final thoughts. So my final thought will be by the next time we chat, Kevin, next week, Ray J. Dennis will have either visited or will be on his way to visit. Maybe, you know, it depends if we do midweek show. So there's going to be a lot more Ray J news by the next time we come on here. So I think he'll either have visited or he'll be on his way to visit the next day or two. So I think by next weekend, you guys, this weekend sounds probably like Kansas State, and then he's going to go to Baylor early or mid next week, and then Illinois next weekend.
Right on.
So what's your lasting little impression here, Urbana's finest?
I agree with you, so I'm not going to pile on that one. The last little note is to take a look at some other sports and what is being built and what's already been built is that Shauna Green is having a ton of success in the transfer portal.
I'm glad you brought that up.
And grabbing some really good assistant coaches. So I think Josh Whitman's done a really nice job there. The women's golf looks like their season's over. They're not going to make it out of the regionals. The men's golf regional, they'll start next week, early next week, like Monday, the 15th. Look for those guys to advance. I think they'll be fine. The top 5 teams will advance there to the national championships in Arizona. But the other side of that coin is that baseball and softball turned in some really disappointing seasons, and some areas have got to get fixed. I think there's a ton coming back for baseball next year. I'm not completely read up on softball.
Softball right now is winning. At least they made the Big Ten tournament, and they're winning at home right now. So
against Wisconsin,
against Wisconsin, they're up 8-4.
All right,
so that's a big win because that's the 5th seed. This team has NCAA tournament talent. I mean, they've been to the NCAA tournament, I think 2 or 3 years in a row.
Yeah,
and it's very underwhelming this year. And they're all surprised because they were picked in the top 4 of the Big Ten.
Yeah, so some things got to get fixed there, but it's who knows? Maybe they get that magical break there. But I am super freaking stoked for the NCAA golf championships, and there's a chance I might actually get to see them if they make it to Scottsdale for the NCAA championships. I think we're the number 2, number 3 overall seed in the NCAA tournament. We've got two guys at the top in ADDC and Tommy Cool who are really, really good. Tommy Cool actually would have qualified most likely for the U.S. Open, but ADDC did instead because Tommy Cool disqualified himself by fixing an aerated green and turned that into a scorecard, which is a 2-stroke penalty, which kept him from, I think, going to a playoff with ADDC. So, but it's Adrian DeMont Deschasher. I'm sorry if I screw up his name, but it's probably going to win the male athlete of the year this year on campus. But look for that coming up here pretty shortly. But I do think some really good things are going to come out for the basketball program here shortly as well.
That I might give you that. You love the golf program so much, rightfully so. I might task you with maybe see if we can get one of the golfers on the show after the season's over.
Yeah, that'll be nice. Hey, Trent just chopped in. Trent, I'm not off the top of my head right now. I know we were interested in Utah Valley guy, but it's not looking like that's promising. We'll get you update on some bigs.
And it sounds like possible academics, possible other situations going on. And Kansas, so there's a Kansas big that's either about to hit the portal or will be because Hunter Dickinson's in town. So there's a lot of moving parts and pieces. So, again, we appreciate you. Subscribe on Spotify. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Follow along. Retweet this on Twitter. And subscribe on YouTube. We appreciate you. That'll do it. Have a lovely rest of your Wednesday night. And Ray J. Dennis will be visiting very soon. So with that said, swap me out.
ILL.
I.